Go bigger than a hell rain, moves like you heard on the decks. Glover hold the court, give the chief no suspect. Politics in the mix, like double Stewart Rich. Spinning tales from Black Wall Street, real life's the pitch. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. 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 Business tips hotter than lava. Got that Midas touch. Stocks and blocks, teaching youngins how to clutch. Ears to the concrete, finger on the pulse. Dropping wisdom like Hova, each word a joke. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. 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 Walls painted black, history on lock. Blast off from toss, a rebirth like a clock. Markets rising from ashes to gains. Donnie the narrator, truth runs in veins. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. Donnie Glover Show.
First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. Entered to win it for the long haul, baby. Mr. Lamont Bell, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Donnie Glover.
What's happening today?
Man, you know what it is with me, man. Same old Zone 15, trying to make things happen, man. How's your day going so far?
Man, I'm just glad to be in the land of the living. You know how many people didn't wake up this morning?
Yeah. You got to count your blessings. You're on the other side of the dirt, man.
Yeah, man. Then we get a chance to speak with a national, if not internationally recognized speaker who's going to tell us some of the basics of business 101 that apparently a lot of universities and institutions of higher learning have failed to educate people about. That's what you said, Mr. Bell.
Yeah, hey, and I stand by him 1,000% on that.
And he told me this, Mr. Williams, right here in Baltimore on North Avenue. Every city's got a North Avenue.
Yeah.
Our North Avenue is very black. So we were in a very black situation. And he said, no, this man said, essentially, he wasn't putting words in your mouth, but he essentially said a lot of us have gone to college.
Yeah.
And totally missed the boat. He said, we got accountants and lawyers. It's like a swing and a miss in baseball.
Yeah. It'll be a tough pill for some people to swallow, but we'll see.
Good deal. Yeah. So, Mr. Bell, introduce our speaker, if you will.
How can I? It's hard to introduce somebody who lives with integrity and transparency. He's a guy who's a family guy. Built a brand that's based on transparency and teaching, especially African American guys and ladies, how to build and structure their business to the point where they build generational wealth. So no other than my brother from another mother is Mr. Dwayne Williams.
Mr. Williams, welcome again. Where are you from, Mr. Williams?
I'm originally from Lafayette, Louisiana, but I live in Houston, Texas.
Man, I just left Louisiana.
Hopefully you had a good time.
A good time? Mr. Williams, I didn't go to the Lafayette. And if I mess up and say Lafayette, that's because that's how they say it.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's the same dude, Lafayette. The same dude referenced in Baltimore is the same dude referenced there. And I didn't know about the McDonoughs.
McDonough 35, the school you talking about? School you went to New Orleans?
Yes, I was in the dirty. Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a huge difference between New Orleans and where I'm from.
I'm very clear. They said New Orleans is not Louisiana and Louisiana is not New Orleans. And don't you know, I get back to Baltimore and I'm going through social media last night. They said, a lady said, Baltimore is not Maryland and Maryland is not Baltimore.
That part.
But you know what's the funniest thing? They had a debate on there. It was a guy from D.C. on social media, a guy from D.C., lady from Baltimore, and they were saying Baltimore's not a part of Maryland. It's his own island. I'm like,
well, I've heard him really say Baltimore's not a part of the DMV.
Man, they said it was part of Maryland. Not I said, how can something that's in the middle of Maryland not be a part of Maryland. So I was confused.
Because we have our own, like New Orleans.
Right.
Let me tell you something. Louisiana. I wrote this book. This is my second book. I don't know if you can see it. I Am Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma, you can't talk about Oklahoma. I wrote this during the centennial 4 years ago. They already got books about Tulsa. I wanted to know the backstory. Where did they come from?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I learned that they came initially from Florida. And so when you look at Louisiana and you look at the history, the purchase of Louisiana, how that expanded the country another 2/3.
That's correct.
The history of Louisiana, the French, the Spanish, the British, the Caribbean, the African culture, the indigenous American. It's just so much history. But I was looking also at all of that water around y'all, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of water. It's a lot of water. We can swim, or at least some of us.
And then they made me try the alligator, and I had no problem trying the alligator. I wasn't mad at it. Mr. Williams, you got me talking. What's on your mind? How are you today?
I am doing well. I cannot complain. And if I did, who would listen?
Okay. All right, take us to school. What is it that my accounting 101 and econ 101 professors failed to teach me and thousands upon thousands of others, especially in Morehouse? They was charging me top dollar down there.
Of course they were.
I could stay.
Of course they were. Of course they were. So to be honest, so first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I always preference these type of conversations by saying, let's level set for just a second. None of us went to school to be an entrepreneur. We didn't go to school to learn entrepreneurship 101. We went to school to learn how to work for somebody else. And in that particular system. And one of the things that, we look at is when everyone starts a business, we're basically starting a business off of what someone else recommended to us, not because we've done our research. And one of the structures that people choose is the limited liability company and all of the things that come with that particular structure. So, and keep it in the spirit of, history, right? And things of that nature, the limited liability company structure rather, the LLC only came around in 1977. So one must ask themselves, what was America doing before 1977? The last state to ever accept the LLC statutes was in 1997. So how can our ticket to financial freedom be wrapped up in a business structure that's literally less than 50 years old?
Can I just get in one question?
You sure can.
Lamont has talked about you and the LLC. Did you and LLC have a beef or something? Were y'all neighbors? Was he the bully down the street? What did LLC do to you, man?
Whenever people structure their business as a limited liability company, they automatically think that they are protected with that structure, that if anything happens to that business, that they have limited liability protection, right? What most people don't understand is the LLC is only recognized by the state. The LLC is only recognized at state level. So what happens is it is a pass-through entity, which means that you have to take financial responsibility for all of the business's income, losses, and deductions. Whenever you, as a business owner, take financial responsibility for a business's income, if anything happens to that business, they're coming after you. So I did what most business owners do. You go secure a loan, and when life happens and you can't afford to pay that bill anymore, who do you think they're coming after? And they came after me. I had a judgment. I was sued, and a lot of other things that happened to me as a business owner. And I realized it happened because I was not educated on what that structure meant. And there are so many business owners that start the business thinking that the LLC protects them, and it doesn't, because they are a disregarded entity. So my issue is not with the structure. My issue was with myself, because I chose to start my business and not be educated on the structure. I based it on, pretty much what everybody else says. Go get an LLC. And typically whenever you listen to accountants and people in the tax world, they're always giving you the recommendation based on a tax perspective, but not a legal liability perspective. And it gets a lot of business owners jammed up.
You had to pay a lot of money?
Say it again?
You had to pay a lot of money because you chose the LLC?
$77,000 they took out of my account.
And I guess you were like planning to go maybe to Shreveport or
No, what it is, to be honest with you, so there's a few things that stand out, right? One must ask themselves, whenever you're doing something with the business, why is it that it's always dependent upon your personal credit score? No one can ever really, understand that. Anytime that you need a credit card for that business, anytime that you need a loan for that business, they're always asking you for your personal social security number. And no one is educating business owners on why that is, right? So typically, and especially in the minority communities, and especially when there's, credit challenges or whatever the case is, how can you effectively grow your business if the business is always tied to your personal credit score? So what most people don't understand is, if you don't want to be sued, if you don't want your credit to be ran, then the natural thing to do is structure your business to where it does not have to depend on you. And when I've learned that you can actually open a corporation just as easy as you can open an LLC, you're treated differently.
By who? The IRS?
Everybody. Because at that point, a corporation, according to the Internal Revenue Service, is seen as a United States person. So when we live in a world where there's always, when we live in America, right? And a lot of things when it comes to business is always either you're a Black-owned business, a minority-owned business, white-owned business. You know what I mean? So when we always have those things at the forefront, the question becomes, how do we even the playing field? Well, if I structure my business as a corporation, that corporation is a person. That corporation isn't a color, it's a person. So if I present that corporation, right, then people are going to treat me differently. And I've figured that out. And it has blessed me tremendously.
So is your business white?
My business is not white. My business is a consulting firm. Whenever you fill out a EIN application, whenever you register that business at the state, it never asks you if you're Black or white.
That's true. I wanted to ask you, have you ever put down that your race is white? And would that be illegal or wrong?
Where am I going to put it?
I just mean a lot of times they ask us these dumb questions. What race are you? That's just a question I've had in the back of my mind floating around. Okay.
Absolutely.
So with that EIN number, one can then apply for credit.
Well, see, that's another part of the conversation that most business owners don't even know what an EIN number is. The E in EIN stands for employer. The definition of an employer is a person or organization that employs people. To employ people, that means to give them work. If you don't have nobody you paying, how can you be defined as an employer?
All right, cat from Florida, he the first one to step up. What if you put an LLC in a trust to protect you from lawsuits?
A trust does not protect against pre-existing debt. Most people get that confused as well. That means whenever you acquired that debt, that debt was secured by a lien. That means either the bank, financial institution put a lien against that debt to protect their interest. You can't take something that has a lien against it and just put it into a trust that, and act like it's going to be protected. And we got to go back before that. The trust, the limited liability company is only recognized at the state level. Every state operates differently. Whenever you use a federal EIN number with a structure that's only recognized by the state, you have to consider state jurisdiction and federal jurisdiction. You cannot just take something that's recognized only at the state level and somehow protect it in a trust. people I understand what people are trying to do with the trust, but when they started the business by connecting themselves to the business, which kind of defeats the purpose almost. And if you go look at your EIN document, and again, regardless of what school you went to, if you go look at your EIN document and you have a limited liability company, that EIN document is going to have the business name LLC with your first and last name on it. How do you separate yourself from something that has your first and last name on it?
Well, that's why Mr. Bell told me we were bringing you on the show, because you're coming to Baltimore to teach us.
Absolutely.
And by the way, can I get my tuition money back? And can I get uncharged for the student loans? Because apparently I got flim-flam. I got stuck up. I got robbed, and I'm not alone.
There's a lot of people. But again, I mean, if we go back to it, right? What did school teach us to do? Or what was school supposed to teach us to do? School was supposed to teach us how to research. Did anybody force you to go get that LLC? Yes or no?
Nobody held a gun on us.
Okay. But the question is, why did you choose the LLC? Why did you choose that structure?
Because the person who was advising us suggested it.
And did you go check to see if that was the best situation for you?
Hell no. I was too happy to open the business. That's the truth.
And that's what happens with a lot of people, right? So we take that, exactly. But no one gives us the education on what happens when we have that LLC. What happens when I need
the lawyer to study those things?
Well, no, your lawyer studied law. It didn't study business lending.
But you're also telling me my accountant apparently wasn't paying attention in class.
Your accountant was supposed to tell you that 1 + 1 = 2. That has nothing to do with you being a personal guarantor on a loan. And let me ask you this question, just out of curiosity. In every company that you work for, there's always different departments. You got the legal department, the tax department, human resources, the operations. Is that fair?
That's very fair.
So you went ask one department about everybody else's job.
This ain't how I was really looking to feel early on a Monday morning.
So the first key, in all honesty, the first key to fixing this is we all got to take accountability. We went to somebody who we thought can give us the answer for everybody's job in our company. And that was the wrong approach.
He said I was going to feel this way. Is that solution, Mr. Williams?
Yes, it is. If you don't ever want to be personally connected to that thing, if you don't want to, there's a number of different ways. If the first thing is, if you don't want to ever be responsible for that business, if we go back to that EIN document that has your name on it, we have to get your name off of that document. The only structure that allows you to get your name off of that document is a C corporation, because a corporation is seen as a United States person. That's the first step. Then once you understand that if I take that corporation and let that corporation lead, then I have to ask myself, what is it that I really want out of things, right? Most people hate paying taxes, and I get it. Who wants to pay taxes?
Donald Trump don't. That's my thing. He ducks them.
Yes, legally.
He ducks them. I want to be like that in that regard. That's the only thing I admire about that man. He got more moves than P. Diddy.
Well, I'm gonna give you a real simple strategy. Watch this. You ready? It's gonna be real simple. If you don't want to pay taxes, donate all of your money to charity. The IRS ain't never said you couldn't own the charity.
That part. That part.
Most people don't understand if a corporation is a person, you donate money to a person, which is a nonprofit, right? If you have another person in the background, because Donald Trump has a whole bunch of companies, right? Then you let your nonprofit donate to another corporation. Hire another corporation, and you can take money from that other corporation. There's a number of different strategies. But we got to get your name off the paper.
This is like what's the term? Cognitive dissonance.
That's a good word.
That's
an excellent word.
I
mean, the idea is simple, right? One of the things we have to go back to the beginning. If I use a number, EIN number, that always has my name associated with it, because again, if you go look at think about it like this: your accountants, your lawyers, and everybody tells you that you are separated from the business, but you can read your first and last name on that EIN document. How do you logically say that you are separated from something, but you read your first and last name on the paper? So now if I go or get an EIN for a corporation, my name is not on it. So if I present people with a document, if I present people with things that doesn't have my name associated with it, then how can I be responsible legally? So what Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and all of these individuals, what they understood was, if I start the business without being attached to the business, then that business can do what it needs to do. The whole idea of owning nothing, controlling everything is we have to get to the point to where we're not, fascinated by having our name on a document. It has nothing to do with us. Get your name and get out the way. Let the business do what it does. And I guarantee you, it can open doors for you. It did for me when I learned it the hard way.
77,000.
And other things that happen. And when
I interject real quick, I think they really need to hear about dealing with the SBA and how it affected you to the point where as though it really fueled your passion to teach people how to get out these situations and how to remove their names and how to build generational wealth. Because here in Baltimore, when the pandemic hit, so many entrepreneurs came out the closet. We had so many people that LLC, everything was LLC this. Take the LLC and do that. Even I had on my wall, literally had on my wall, trust, business trust, family trust, holding company, and a whole slew of LLCs at the bottom. Until I met Mr. Dwayne and I started listening to his story. But I think if you give him a glimpse of why you're so passionate about why you do what you do, I think Baltimore residents will really resonate with that story.
Yeah, no problem. So back in late 2021, I applied for a loan with the SBA and I got approved for $1 million, but I never got the money. I was approved by the SBA and never got the money. And the reason is because the SBA had one simple request. Let me get your tax transcripts. That's it. I own a tax office. I filed my taxes. Surely. Y'all can get my transcripts. And the SBA kept coming back and said the IRS has no record of your tax transcripts, even with me, provided e-file confirmations and things of that nature. Well, I was an LLC filing my taxes as a corporation at the time because you can fill out a form, 8832, entity classification form, to have your taxes filed. And I kept getting a lot of pushback from the SBA until one day I took it upon myself to send an email to the SBA, Office of Inspector General, my congressman at the time, my senator at the time, the White House, ABC News, CNN, etc.
I think you were a little upset at the time, huh?
I was pissed off. Well, it wasn't more so being upset. I just felt like I did what most people that look like me do. We automatically assume it's because we're Black. We automatically assume it's because of this. We automatically assume it's because of that. I honestly took that approach. I thought that they were giving me a hard time because it was me.
You saying white people don't make this mistake?
Oh, everybody makes a mistake. I took the point because I grew up in a situation where, we were told that everything that goes wrong in life is because of our skin color.
That's America. I thought we all got that.
Yeah, but again, that was called ignorance, lacking information or knowledge. And I'm going somewhere with that. I'm going somewhere. So I assumed all of those things were happening because of who I was and all of that good stuff, right? Long story short, I wrote the letter and then I got an email response back from the White House in June of 2022. And the White House said, we have received your correspondence and we're going to forward it to the appropriate federal agency for further action. Again, I was picking a fight at the federal level with a structure that's only recognized by the state. I received a call from the IRS and the SBA days later. And the IRS agent said, unfortunately, and when she said that word, unfortunately, it pierced me in a way that I never thought I could ever be pierced, because I had so much riding on that $1 million. Hell, I spent the money before I even got it. When somebody tell you got approved for $1 million, oh, I spent the money before I even got it. I had a lot of debt I wanted to clear out, all that good stuff. So when the IRS agent said, unfortunately, she told me that my tax return was sitting in what's called an unpostable file. And again, I own a tax office. I had to humble myself and ask her, well, what is an unpostable file? And that's when the IRS has a tax return that they cannot post to your account for whatever reason. And she says that you submitted your tax return on a corporate tax return. And I said, yes, I did. You all said on y'all's website that I can fill out a form, 8832 entity classification form, to have my taxes filed as a corporation. She says, we see that form, but we did not post that to your account. According to your EIN number, you are still listed as a limited liability company. Therefore, you should have submitted your tax return on a Schedule C. In order for us to fix this, you're going to have to amend your tax return and allow us to repost it that way. At that moment, the SBA said we did not have time to wait for an amended tax return. It forced me to go figure out why the mistake happened. And the IRS agent said this one sentence to me. Had you been a corporation structured from the beginning, you would have never ran into this problem. So it forced me to go restudy business structures. It forced me to go unlearn everything that I've ever learned. And when I did, 4 months later, in October 2022, I went open a real estate investment trust, which is a corporation. And I applied for funding for that corporation. And I got approved for nearly $2 million and never used my social security number, all because I used a corporation. And then
real estate investment trust, that's a REIT, right?
That's correct. And the bank said, since that company that I opened wasn't even a year old, they needed 2 people to co-sign on the deal, like a personal guarantor. They needed 2 personal guarantors. I used my corporation, which is a consultant firm, and I used my corporation, which was a tax office at the time. I used 2 other corporations to co-sign. They never checked my social security. They never used my social security number one time.
Now, how do they feel about you putting this out there? Because, I mean, did you say you got $2 million that you're not even responsible for?
Yep.
Okay, where's the seminar, Mr. Dwayne? When's he coming to Baltimore?
Well, the original date was June 19th through the 21st, but I think we've made a decision to postpone it to another date. We haven't selected the date yet, so we're still working on that. I think more people needed to figure out and hear me before coming to Baltimore, so that way they can understand that what we're trying to do is help people build a legacy. And there's a lot of people that didn't even know that I exist. So when you say, how do people feel, or how do they feel with me putting this information out? I'm not a threat to nobody, because one thing history has taught us, we don't read as Black people. The information has always been on the website.
We read, Mr. Williams.
If you would have read in the beginning, had we read in the beginning versus taking somebody else's advice, we would have realized that. Think about it like this. If we do read, let me ask you a question, Mr. Doni. Do you believe words have meaning and words have power?
Yes.
How can we say that we want to be financially free, but we chose a word like limited? Do you consider
Because
yourself
the
a small
damn
business owner?
lawyer we trusted to bring to the table said get the LLC. And you know what?
Do you think most people consider themselves a small business owner? Yes or no?
Yeah. Out of ignorance, yes, we do.
Okay. Have we ever went and look at the definition of the word small?
It's a certain amount of money, right?
No. The definition of the word small is of a size less than normal or usual, insignificant or unimportant. That's the definition of the word small.
Yes.
Nobody asked you when you opened your business, were you a big business or a small business? Why did you put yourself in that category? So if you
I never said I was a small business in this conversation.
But if we believe that we are small, they're gonna treat us as such. If we believe that we are limited, they're gonna treat us as such.
You have no argument here. I totally agree.
So I teach people business structure from that perspective.
Mr. Williams, somebody might get punched in the face in America if they watch this show today. Because I see some people going back to their accountants, to their lawyers, maybe even to their spouse. And this is going to be the question. Why did we get an LLC?
Because you told me that you didn't. You told me. Now watch this. Whenever you go to the attorney and you tell them your situation, right? They're going to do the right thing for you to do. So it says, if that attorney or that accountant told you, I don't know anything about a corporation, would you use that attorney or that accountant?
Possibly. Possibly. I then want to know what else does that person not know.
Fair. But again, we went to one person to ask them how we run an entire business.
I can't argue that. I'm not even. That's like falling in the Mississippi River and thinking you're getting out.
Exactly. So again, as long as we understand, that we have to take some accountability, because whenever we go to a tax person, what is the one thing that we tell the tax person? I don't want to pay taxes. So then we tell people, I just show that I took a loss, write everything off. There is no such word as write off on a tax return, but yet we use it every day. So as long as we can take accountability, and if we are searching for a desire to change, right? If you don't want to be sued, if you're looking for funding or whatever the case is, if we're searching for a true desire to change, then that means that we have to unlearn the things that we have learned wherever we learned it from. We got to stop using the word they. Who is they? We have to take responsibility to say that I chose to operate my business without a proper instruction. I chose that. I didn't go to school to learn how to be a business owner. So I chose to operate my business, and I chose to, think that I'm going to reach financial freedom with a word like limited. We chose that. It's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. Black people don't go to a certain IRS website versus white people. We all go to irs.gov.
And presumably, most of your clients are not white guys.
No, the majority of my clients are Black. I do have a very diverse group of clients, but the majority of my clients are Black.
Are you suggesting that white people don't make the same mistake?
I'm suggesting that every race makes this mistake. Everybody makes a mistake because, again, we chose to. Well, let me give you some IRS statistics. According to IRS statistics, that's 23 million people have a business that's structured as a sole proprietorship. 21 million people have a business that's structured as a limited liability company. That's 44 million people. Only 1.7 million people have a business structured as a corporation. If we take those numbers and we realize that only the top 1% of people in America or in the world are wealthy, and they don't do what other people do. So there's 44 million people who chose to do things based on hearsay.
And
Hearsay
I
is not
guess
even
you got
allowed in the
some
court of law.
swampland and Lafayette that you can sell them also.
Say it again.
So I guess you have some swampland in Lafayette or somewhere in Louisiana that you can sell them to.
Well, you know, the problem is most people will now go research everything about me because it's me delivering the message. Had I been Warren Buffett saying the same thing, no one would question it. If I'm wrong, tell me.
See, if I'm wrong in my collar's where you belong.
No, but no, seriously, all I do is I just try to genuinely help people understand that there is a way out of your situation. There is a way to put you in a situation where you can actually, you know, become financially free. But it has you're learning, and the way that you approach business has to change. Stop calling yourself a black-owned business, because if we walked up to a store and it said white-owned, we would actually have a riot. We would boycott that store. There is no such thing. We open businesses. Money is green. If we know that we are facing an issue, whether it be, you know, if you're a minority as it relates to male versus female, minority versus, you know, Hispanic, Latino, whatever the case is, if we know that the world that we live in are always looking at those particular things, let's start to present the business where, you know, the business can be the face of it. Let's remove ourselves out of the equation. Let's present a business that is viable. Let's present a business that actually has, you know, all of the things checked from a business perspective, and take ourselves out of it. That's it. Let's even the playing field. And if you structure that business where it doesn't have you attached to it, then, you know, you can put yourself in a position to win.
Tell me about purpose-driven life, Mr. Dwayne. Have you found this to be your purpose?
I believe that it is my person. My purpose. I've taken what was extremely painful and turned it into purpose, right? I believe that I had to go through those things for not only myself, but to help others. And I use this fuel. I use all of my experiences from a very transparent perspective. I don't mind showing people that I got sued. I don't mind showing people the judgment. I don't mind showing people, you know, all of the failures that I've had in life. But I also don't mind showing people, once I decided to change, how it actually opened up doors for me. I have made more doors have opened up for me ever since I changed the way that I think, right? And I just share my story with people. I share my story from, you know, being, you know, sexually, you know, assaulted as a kid. I share my story as losing my family in my first divorce. I share every painful experience that I've ever been with, just to let people know I'm human, right? And when we don't seek therapy, when we don't do all of these things, we tend to take those traumatic experiences into the business world. And, you know, we make decisions based on emotion. I teach people how to stop making emotional decisions when it comes to business, make sound business decisions.
Okay, so where's the class for the kids?
So the interesting part is I actually developed a class that teaches people how to actually, you know, structure their business the right way. I give them a very good blueprint on how to do it. Have I taught, you know, kids before? I have. The biggest challenge is, you know, it's funny. It's never the kids.
It's their mama.
It's the parents. It's the parents.
And I want to say to mama, I'm not picking on you sisters, but our community is 70% single mother household. And so we got some fragmentation going on there.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
And quite often the children are with the mommy. That is not to slight the daddies who are there, who have always been there. And let me just throw in there, stepdaddies don't get no points.
No, we don't get no points at all. But I believe, I believe, regardless whether it's the mama, whether it's the daddy, we have to fall in love with accountability. Once I started to fall in love with taking accountability, things have changed. Because it's us as human beings that we make decisions based on whatever the situation is. Once we can start taking accountability, and that's what I did. Once I started to take accountability, I couldn't blame nobody for why I chose a LLC. I couldn't blame nobody, for why I chose to actually build the business and I didn't have the resources. Like, I couldn't blame nobody. I had to really say, hey, I started this thing without being properly educated because I wanted the instant gratification versus doing everything else. Think about it like this, right? We spent 12 years going to high school, 4 years getting a bachelor's degree, 2 years getting a master's. We spent 18 years of our life learning how to be somebody else's employee.
Now, Mr. Dwayne, I got to push back on you finally. We 40 minutes into the show.
Come on.
I grew up in a family business.
Okay.
And I knew as a child I was going to college.
Okay.
I didn't know how I was going to get from college to where my dad was running his own business with mom's wisdom, probably guiding the damn ship. But back then it looked like he was running things. But now I realize she was really running things.
Fair.
That's all I wanted. Well, I think a seed was planted in the back of my head. Boy, you talk too much to be working for somebody, so you had to figure out a way to make your own money.
Okay. So the question is, why did you feel college was going to teach you to do what your dad did?
I didn't. I just wanted to go to college. I
Why?
wanted that Morgan State University or Morehouse thing up on the wall because that means I would have been okay. Because they had the pretty girls there.
Fair. Now, you see, I can receive that.
Did you see them girls in Spelman? They showed me one damn picture. I was gone. And come to find out, I didn't know Morehouse was all male. I saw them cheerleaders. It said Morehouse, and I said, I'm going. And it said Atlanta?
Yeah.
I live in Baltimore. You're damn right. They are shooting people outside, sir.
I'm with you. No, I totally get it, right? It's called a journey for a reason. We all go through the journey. We think that school is supposed to teach us entrepreneurship, and we learn the skills, right? We learn, math, reading, comprehension. We learn that, but not entrepreneurship.
Kind of, sort of. It was a little twisted. Let me tell you. I stood in the financial aid line.
Okay.
And it was a long line. No, Mr. Wade, it was a long line. That line was like they was giving away free cell phones out there on the avenue.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a long line.
Yeah.
And I'm from Baltimore. Kind of like y'all, I don't like lines. So I'm always thinking how to get to the front of this line. Because it's hot out here, and them girls over there at Spelman, and I ain't going to make no progress standing in this financial aid line.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget something that happened, Mr. Williams. This one dad, he came from all the way back there, and he walked straight past all of us. And he got up to the counter. He pulled out his checkbook. He wrote a check. He gave that check to the lady in Morehouse and turned around and walked back out that door. And I said to myself, one day that's going to be me.
That part.
I don't know how he got from there to there, but I know I saw that he wasn't standing in his line. He wasn't filling out no financial aid form. He wasn't sweating the loan terms. I said, that's power.
That's because he knew he didn't have any limitations in front of him.
He didn't have an LLC. He didn't have a small business. He didn't have a black-owned business. He had a checkbook with money in it.
That part. And he had a belief that he knew that he could do that. He believed in that. He believed in that moment. Sometimes we just don't believe in ourselves enough. We don't believe that we can actually be that guy. Because why? We always tend to operate out of fear, false evidence appearing to be real. Being a business owner means taking risks, meaning that you have to know that being a business owner, you're not going to get a check every 2 weeks. Are you willing to bet on yourself like that?
I did that 23 years ago.
How did that work? How did it work out for you? I'm
still working for myself, getting a little bit smarter. But today I feel like I went to summer school, and tomorrow's gonna be a little bit better because I done made up for some stuff that I didn't know. Now, but I gotta tell you, somebody might get punched in the mouth today. It's gonna be some accountants.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're gonna watch Mr. Bell's version, they're gonna listen to this, and then they're gonna go ask the accountant. And the rush is over, it's June, and they go. I learned during the pandemic that accountants didn't know much about the COVID money.
Of course they did. But can you, okay, so yes, I can understand people's frustration and wanting to go to the accountant. But what if the accountant said, I didn't tell you to structure your business as an LLC, you did that?
Then you got to think about who the hell told me to do this.
And I
know his name, and I think I know where he live at.
But you know what? Another thing is that just like Dwayne said, like you got to take an inner approach. First, you got to clear all that stuff out you. I always think because a lot of us based our business off the conditions and the conditions that we was brought up in, and we carried it into the business, thinking that we can use the same way. Now, sometimes you can do because I'm from Baltimore. I come from the streets of Baltimore, and living in the Park Heights community is we have a hustle mentality. But if you look at hustling, the word hustle, like you always say, look at words, hustle, that means you constantly going to and fro to make something happen. And then, we always use the word, I'm grinding. Grinding means to wear something down. So now I'm looking at, I don't want to grind no more, and I don't want to hustle no more. What I want to do is structure my life and my business to be purposely driven to help other people. And I believe that if everybody really start looking into their purpose of why they're here, and I think there's only two purposes, that's to serve a higher power and serve the people on this planet. The specific of it comes from your passion. So whatever your passion you've been blessed with, or that skill you've been blessed with, I think that's the way you serve your two purposes on this earth. And to pivot off that, we need to stop a lot of us mentality to have a business because we come from poverty, and just to say I can have my own business, it feels good. It feels really good. But then we have to think about what is the purpose of having a business? It is to pass the stewardship to the next family member. This is how you create generational wealth. And I think we're getting away why truly we should have a business to pass it through the family so they won't have to suffer. And that family built the business so they won't have to say the next generation do the same thing. And it constantly elevates into the point where as though, just like Smucker's been around 140 years.
I'm not going to give the people but so much praise because we all know how they got to where they are.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mr. Bell, I got to push back on you now.
Okay.
You say you grew up in poverty.
According to the United States, yeah, it was poverty. When you're making sandwich with sugar on and put it there, and put it on, or your lights getting cut off every couple of months, or your sister have to go to Murray Steakhouse to steal to get food for 10 children, yeah, that's poverty. And you living in a apartment building with 10 other siblings, and there's only 3 bedrooms, I consider that poverty, according to the United States. Now, in other places around the world, it's horrible. My situation don't compare to theirs, but growing up it was an adverse situation for a single parent mother. So yeah, I was living the poverty.
Okay, that's fair. But there is a difference between poor and broke, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't come up Park Heights, especially if Paul McCourtin said, you know, make that an issue. Because Mr. Williams, what you might want to know is Park Heights is like a litmus test.
Mm. Okay.
You're either gonna come out thorough or you're gonna come out broken.
There's no in between.
No.
Nah.
But a lot of times broke is broke and poor is that continual thinking that
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I did want to share, Mr. Bell, that have you ever been to the Mississippi Delta?
No.
Mm.
The Mississippi Delta, they say, is one of the poorest places that us Northerners, and we're not all the way north, Baltimore is still south of the Mason-Dixon line. But there are some people in this country who will show us a whole new definition of poor. I saw it in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Mr. Bell, they got people who never had shoes.
Oh no, I know about that in Jamaica. That's why I said, but I've never been to Mississippi. So that's a place I like to travel to because sometimes you need to look at those who have less than you to be grateful for what you already have.
I'm glad you said that. There's a place in Mississippi called Mound Bayou. I talk about it in that book, I Am Black Wall Street, but and it's only because we're not close and we don't know. But Mound Bayou, Mississippi, as I was researching Black Wall Street, they had everything, I believe, except the hospital in Mound Bayou, Mississippi. And it all started, our story as a people started heavily. If you're in New York, you probably got roots in South Carolina. It's just a shift. You got roots either in South Carolina, or if you're further south, you got roots in Mississippi, in Florida, maybe Louisiana.
Mm.
And so, Mr. Williams, I guess we get divided by a lot of Americanisms.
We do. We get divided a lot by Americanism, but you know, again, right? Well, first of all, we cannot. I don't apologize for being who I am, and I don't want anyone to apologize for who they are. What I can say is it doesn't matter what's happening in America. It doesn't matter who's the president. The truth of the matter is, if you don't change your situation will never change. If you don't change your situation will never change. And what I can say is, at the end of the day, I encourage every person and every business owner to just do your research, right? I encourage every business owner to take accountability. I encourage every business owner to look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? If I don't want my children to go through the struggles that I've been through, then I have to give them something else to look at.
Are you a victim or a victor?
I am a victor all day long. Absolutely.
Now, I got to ask you this question. Don't laugh at me. I see Sade and Malcolm in the back. Are you going to talk about them? They're your favorite people? Your favorite picture? Well, they ain't got a damn thing to do with what we're talking about.
Actually, my wife and I, we did a paint party at our house, and they told us to to paint the people who we resonate with. So Sade is for my wife. I resonate with Malcolm for a lot of different reasons, because most people only know the story based on what television told them, right? But I think if they did their research on who Malcolm is and what he's been through, what you see is an evolution of a man who pretty much had every obstacle in front of him. He had, a stark belief in a particular thing. It took him to actually travel outside of the country to see that the world is bigger than, what we normally see it as. And for me, what resonates with me when it comes to Malcolm is it's the evolution of a man. You're not a product of your environment.
Did you know his mama? Now, I read in the book, they tried to say his mama was crazy. I just learned his mama was a Pan-Africanist.
I think, again, it goes back to the history. If we did our research and just go study the history, the origins of certain things, you're going to realize that what you typically see and what we typically believe is based on hearsay, not because we truly know it as fact.
Well, it's a whole lot of damn hearsay in Louisiana. Let me tell you something. Did you know they were selling slaves at the church? Lamont, did you know that the church, that's where the slave sales was? I'm like, they say, I'm gonna take you to where they sell the slaves at.
So watch this. Now say that. So you said, so they were selling slaves, right?
Yeah.
So they sold slaves. So if money put us into slavery, purchase, how do we feel money gonna get us out of it? Money isn't the issue.
Dwayne, because I've seen enough damn movies where the dude is coming out that bank and he got the bag of money and he get away. Maybe I watched The Town one time too many, but I seen him with that bag of money and I saw him get away, and he was somewhere down your way in Florida. Tangerine, Florida.
And he was broke shortly after.
I didn't say that part, Mr. Dwayne.
Well, I'm just saying. It's what I get. That's why when you look at the lottery statistics, most people who win the lottery are broke within the first 2 to 3 years.
Average player don't last in the NFL past 25 or 30.
Because we're not taught on. We're thinking that money is the key to us being financially free. Money is a tool and it's a resource. It's the mind.
Cats might think marrying a white girl is going to make them financially free.
It might do some other things, but I don't think financially free is one of them.
That's how they kind of sell it to them young men.
And they buy it. Many people buy it, but it is what it is.
Okay, then you got to tell us why your wife picked Sade.
I would do her some
injustice.
I
will get you no trouble.
She gonna watch.
We love Malcolm.
Yeah.
Malcolm learned in Mecca that Muslims are all flavors, that you never know who your brother is or ain't, and certainly learned that don't fall for the flim flam. If that movie played one more time, get your hand out my pocket.
Yeah.
Right there. His boy's supposed to open fire on whoever did that distraction.
Automatically.
Malcolm was a powerful example. And he was about starting your own. Was it Organization of African American Unity?
And I like again, going back to the history of it. What I take away from him is don't believe what people tell you. You know, like you have to again go study it, and once you believe in whatever it is you believe in, follow it, whatever that is. Right, wrong, or indifferent. If you believe it, follow it.
So I am to believe. Did your life change fiscally, financially?
My entire life has changed in a way that not only from a monetary perspective, but just from an overall value perspective. I don't even look at the price tags of anything, not because I'm rich, but I've learned the art of stop looking at what it costs you and look at the value that you can get out of it. And once we start looking at things from the value that we can receive, we tend to now surround ourselves with people who add value, books who add value, radio that add value. We don't look at the cost of anything anymore. We look at the value. So my life has changed tremendously. Ever since I've restructured my businesses to corporations, I have made more money within this, 3.5, 4 year period per se, than I've ever done in my entire lifetime.
So, Lamont,
Yes, sir.
do you get paid to promote Mr. Williams?
Not, actually,
and so,
it's funny that you say that. A lot of people think I do,
funny.
but I don't. This is how me and Mr. Dwayne met. I'm on TikTok, Great Wisconsin, and he came on my For You page. And I just started listening to the brother. I got all my stuff on my wall, how I'm going to set up my business and this and that. And I'm telling my wife, yeah, we got to get this stuff together, blah, blah, blah. We got to take the money, move it over here, do this and do that. Then I started listening to this brother for a whole month. I listened to this brother. And what led me to him is the receipts. He's literally on live, pulling up off his computer, his information. Something that a lot of influencers don't do. They just give you screenshots. So when that was presented, something in me said, I'm just going to throw 100 yards and see will he catch it. And I hit the get on there live, and he brought me on. And I actually told the bro, I said, man, you need to come to my city. I said, my city is hurting, but I know if they get structured right, and they know, and one of the biggest things is poverty, and they know how to structure it and build generational wealth, we can change the trajectory of Baltimore City, because we got a lot of entrepreneurs. We're first in a lot of things. The port. It's a lot of history, rich history behind Baltimore that a lot of people that's outside of Baltimore don't even know, like the Star Spangled Banner and so many other things. The Underground Railroad. So I said, I have to get them here. So my mission was I'm going to get them here. I don't care what it costs or what I have to do. I'm going to get this brother here, because this information needs to be given to all these young and older entrepreneurs that don't know this information, that's keep on hitting the ceiling and don't know why they're stagnated. They just keep hitting the ceiling. So how do I remove that ceiling out there? And I say they need this information. They need to be taught to them in a manner where as though it holds them accountable, but yet allows them to use their creativity to build a business that they love and can pass on from generation. So,
Mr. Williams, do you like sports?
Love sports.
I got a curveball for you before we get up out of here for the day.
Let's go.
Facebook took my page with 211,000 followers.
Okay.
I didn't put nothing up there about nobody's mama. I didn't call white people the devil. I just put up Black history stuff.
Okay.
This page was touching 4 to 6 million people a month.
Okay.
And they never really explained to me why they took my page.
Okay.
Is there a similar lesson in that experience for the rest of us? Because we think we own something, and what became really, 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 really clear is that I'm a guest in somebody else's house.
That is a lesson for every business owner. Whenever you are dependent on something else or someone else, at any moment, they can pull the rug from underneath you, and you can't blame them. Why? Because you chose to depend on them.
Well, I applied it to this new book I'm coming out with, where I'm looking into Joy Reid, Roland Martin, and every city's got those Black people who were in media, and we had the corporate job. We had our own parking space. We had our name on it. And then one day, we talked smack to somebody who we didn't know that was so-and-so's cousin's boyfriend's girlfriend's auntie. And then they said, Mr. Glover, well, it didn't happen to me. But
watch it. You said something very key. What type of job you had? A corporate job. But you chose to be a limited liability company. The lesson in that.
That's that story teach tell. I mean, story teach tool moment.
Language, as you say, words are very important.
Absolutely. So, again, no, Lamont does not get paid by Dwayne Williams. I promise you. I promise you.
Are you hiring? And I say that facetiously, but I imagine all of those entities we saw over the past 30 years since college, A.L. Williams, multi-level marketing joints. I mean, if we're going to be hustling, we might as well be hustling together.
That part. So I encourage business to business transactions. I encourage business to business transactions.
Well, we want to cover it right here on our network, and whatever we can do, we will in terms of promoting this upcoming event. And I got to tell you, man, now they gave me some crawfish etouffee. I told my man I wanted shrimp etouffee. He come back with the craw, and I wasn't ready for crawfish. But too early in the morning, and it was a little salty in there. But I did have the beignets and the coffee.
Okay.
Oh,
you had some fried biscuits with powdered sugar.
That's all it was, but it was good.
I know. It's the little things. We will make anything taste great. It's because we put the love in it. It's all the love. It's the same grease. We just put a little love in it.
But I also heard the ancestors down there screaming for us to wake up. And they would, let me tell you, as soon as I got going and coming, you know all they were talking about there? Besides Haiti, they were talking about Ibrahim Traoré. Ibrahim Traoré, the new president, the leader of Burkina Faso.
There's a lot of rich history in Louisiana, and I think a lot of times people think about the food, but it's a
liberation, man, freedom.
That's
where it went down.
It did.
The connection to
Louisiana
Haiti
is still one of the only states. Louisiana is still under the Napoleonic law. And so meaning that when everybody talk about go get a trust, you can't go get a trust in Louisiana just like you can get everywhere else. That's why they call it the Louisiana Purchase.
Damn, we got a whole new we think we know and we don't know. Cognitive dissonance is when Mr. Dwayne Williams comes along. First of all, Lamont Bell all the way up on North Avenue telling everybody you better go see him. If you don't, you're a dummy. He ain't say that, but he got that blind like, all right, okay, dummy. He didn't call nobody a dummy, but he's like, okay, don't go, dummy.
and man, once we get this date put together, I think it's going to be even better. And I'm glad that people are getting exposed to this. Me, sometimes, like, I don't look at small pictures. I don't step over the dollars to get to the pennies. So I look at a bigger picture as let the masses of people get this. They need it. Sometimes money is not really what everybody seems to be. Is the networking and the mutual respect that you gain by dealing with you, Mr. Doni, Dwayne, people who really care about the people. It is not really about a dollar value. It's like we need to get this information to elevate our people to a certain status. Once again, I'm on autonomy, and then I can integrate with everybody else, me personally. So that's what I'm doing now as I build these businesses out. I'm just building autonomy to where I can wrap it around other people, show other people where as though, hey, here's this guy who can teach you how to structure your business, how to build generational wealth, and take you from one place to another. You don't have to worry about getting your credit hit, worrying about funding, or worrying about because your skin color is this, you might not get the same treatment because that business is its own person. And how to step out the shadow, not be always wanting to be in the light. Hey, here I go. No, just be quiet and let your business do all your talking. So once I get this out to the public, I think it's going to do a great justice for those who's dealing with this LLC. Because I ain't gonna lie, I was like really deeply rooted in the LLC. I want to have 15, 20 of them. But now I sit back and have to go back and say, "Dad, this man made me change my whole plans." My wife looking at me crazy, like, "What you talking about?" I said, "Man, I listen to this guy, and it makes sense." And he took me through the process. So once people start learning about the methodology of what they've always been in, but the way he explained it, I think he explained it in a unique manner that's done with simplicity. Because doing this by yourself, you'll get confused. But the steps that how he got it lined up is a walk in the park.
Good deal. Mr. Bell, how can people get in touch with you to get follow-up information?
You can do support at choiceschanceschange.com. And coming soon is Relentless Mindset Movement, which is going to spearhead a movement of having Mr. Dwayne and other people that can benefit the city of Baltimore. So support at choiceschanceschange.com. And hopefully that we'll generate enough buzz to hurry up and get this date moving forward and get these people informed so they can change their lives. It's transformational. That's all I can say. It's a transformational information. It's not just a fly-by-night talk or motivational. It's transformational.
Mr. Williams, thank you for making our Monday morning. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Never follow anybody who hasn't been where you're trying to go. Never take advice from anybody who hasn't accomplished the things you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, can you say that again?
Never follow anyone who hasn't been where you are trying to go. Never take advice from anybody who hasn't accomplished the things you are trying to accomplish.
Good morning, world. Thank you.